General Board meeting and the Pat Chacona League of Women Voters Candidates Forum for Districts 2 and 6. Should be a fun evening. There are agendas over there when you enter the door, but basically we're going to start right off with the Candidates Forum, and then we're going to, after the adjourn of that, go into our regular scheduled business. Thank you. And here's our moderator, Judy Hall.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Judy Hall, and I'm with the League of Women Voters of the St. Petersburg area, and I'll be moderating the forum this evening. The League is a nonpartisan political organization for women and men that encourages informed and active participation in government. During this evening's program, you'll be learning more about the candidates to help you make a more informed decision at the polls. Before introducing the City Council candidates, I'll provide some information about the city and the election and go over the rules and format for tonight's forum. I also have some instructions for you in the audience. Voter registration for the August 27th primary election will close on July 29th. The City of St. Petersburg has chosen not to conduct early voting. Mail ballots are available as in previous elections. Voters may go to the Supervisor of Elections sites to cast early ballots. In the primary, voters citywide may cast their votes in the mayoral race. However, only voters residing in Districts 4, 6, and 8 may vote with their respective district council races. In the primary, voters will also be voting on a referendum regarding the lens. For the mayoral as well as each of the council races, the names of the two candidates receiving the most votes will be placed on the November 5th, 2013 general election ballot to be voted at large. These elections are nonpartisan. The City of St. Petersburg is the fourth largest city in the state of Florida with a population of 247,673 people as of 2011. It operates under a strong mayor form of government with an elected city council. The city council has a chair and a vice chair and must approve city policies, city budget, and the mayor's choices for city administrator and city attorney. City council consists of 8 members, one from each of the city's election districts. Their annual salary is $38,914. The mayor and council members serve 4-year terms of office and are limited to 2 consecutive terms. The major city departments are administration, city development, leisure and recreation services, public works, fire, and police. Joining us this evening are candidates running for Districts 2 and 6 who have drawn for their order of seating. 1 minute will be allowed for each of the replies to the audience questions posed by the moderator. If a question is directed to a single candidate, the others will have an opportunity to respond if they choose to do so. There'll be no opening remarks. 1.5 minutes will be allowed for closing remarks, and tonight's timekeepers are Rachel Garofalo and John Mason. The views expressed by the candidates do not represent those of the League of Women Voters or of this forum's sponsoring organizations. We ask you now to please turn off your cell phones and remain quiet throughout the forum. Hold your applause until the closing statements, and then you're welcome to applaud all the candidates. If you've turned in a question to us, they're being submitted now, and if you want to put out a question, raise your hand and we'll get one to you. When you do that question, please give us back our pencils. We'd appreciate that. Now, the questions must apply to the people running for office. Please raise your hand if you have more questions. Please print clearly so we can read them. A panel is reviewing questions for their eligibility, legibility, clarity, and applicability. My colleagues Mary Berglund, Jim Jackson, Paula Whithouse, Sharon Jackson, and Bonnie Sclaren are going to be assisting us. We'll use as many questions as time allows, and sometimes we're going to combine similar questions. So if you don't hear your personal question, it may have been combined with another, or it may have been provided just too late and we've run out of time. So please, if you have other questions, follow up with the candidates following the forum. Your presence here as candidates and as members of the audience show that you share in the League's goal to become more informed and active in the political process. As you can see here today, men make vital contributions also as members of the League since 1974. We invite you to join us in the work that we do. Why not sign up with us today? See our membership representatives, Sue Price at the back table for more information, or you may visit our website, www.lwvspa.org. And now, here are the candidates for this evening in the order in which they have drawn. James Kennedy, Lorraine Margeson, Karl Nurse, Sharon Russ, Trevor Mallory. Okay. Now for our first question. Why is it important for an elected official to be accountable to the people that he or she serve? We'll start with you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this, and Kona for sponsoring this. Oh, that mic would be good, okay.
I'm sorry. Let's go. Can you pass it down?
Sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and start.
Okay, I'm going to give you this then.
That's an accident.
There you go. You know how this thing's going.
It's now wrapped
The
around the
election,
bottom.
you got that on video, right?
We'll pass it front.
Lorraine, it's wrapped around your chair.
You guys know the drill.
Oh. I don't really need one, so,
Well,
but I'll try to
thank
buy it.
you.
Okay, after those technical difficulties, are we on with this? How about now? Okay. Want to thank the League of Women Voters for moderating this, and Kona for sponsoring this, and everyone for attendance. And if I recall the question now, why is it important for accountability?
That's right. Why is it important for an elected official to be accountable to the people he serves or she serves?
Because it's the people's city, and we are the representatives making hopefully the tough decisions in a very informed way. And with that, I would refer to my past almost six years on council as to how I've acted and interacted with the community and responded to it. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Margeson.
Hey, good evening. Thank you all for coming, for the volunteers who are neighborhood association presidents and members. You count a lot. If I have the honor to be on city council, your tax dollars will be paying my salary. I don't think there's much more reason for accountability than that. I would, pose that listening and, kind of congealing your opinions is absolutely the duty of representative government, and accountability totally folds into that spectrum of listening, collating, synthesizing opinion, public opinion, as well as expert opinion and staff opinion. And that will be definitely on my plate as a 20-year activist to make sure that I account to you, because the only reason I'm here is to account to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Newman.
Well, over 20 years or thereabouts, I sat on your side of the table as we were trying to, to get the city to move forward, to help turn around neighborhoods, and whether it's from code enforcement to public safety to boarded up houses, or whatever the issue might be. And so, as I said on this side of the table, it's pretty straightforward. This is about democracy, and our job is to listen. Sometimes it's to educate the public, but largely it's to be educated by the public as to what's most important to y'all. and then to try to figure out what can we do within the realm of, you know, the available resources to try to leave this a better place than we found it. So that's our job. Thanks.
Hi, first of all, I would like to thank Kona and the St. Pete Patch for putting on this great forum tonight so that the candidates can, you know, talk about where we stand. I think it's important for city elected officials to be accountable to the people. Right now, I think we can do better with accountability because right now, you know, how our city is ran, you know, a lot of people now are going through things. So it's kind of hard to get to a council meeting at 8:30 in the morning or 3 o'clock in the evening. So I think that calls for definitely for our elected officials, our city council members to be to make a more concerted effort to make sure the public is involved. And I think we should be accountable to everybody in the community, not just a core group of people, you know, a network that's always been in the community. I think we should make sure that we go to the people and that the people are represented by, you know, by the council member.
Thank you, Mr. Mallory.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to this event. My main thing is you have to be accountable to the people in your community today. In these times, you have to have a trust between the people who live in your community, the people who live in your city, and yourself as a council member. It's rough out here today in South St. Pete, where I live, which is District 6. And if you don't trust these council members that are over your district, then where do we start? I mean, you have to have a trust and a relationship so that a council member can get out and listen, offer concerns and offer help, and you just got to be on the same page. If everybody's going to move forward in our community today, it's going to take a big trust factor. Thank you.
Thank you. This question will start with Ms. Margeson. Would you support refunding people who've received red light camera tickets at intersections with short yellow lights because of defective timers?
Absolutely, and if I get on council, the red light camera issue will be going away. I will absolutely be a proponent to canceling the contract totally. And absolutely, the people who were caught by a malfunctioning system that will probably continue to malfunction forever and ever in one place or another, they need to get a refund, period. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Nurse?
I've been trying to work candidly to fix the system, and we've really had sort of two significant fixes that have happened over several months, and of course Matt has been frankly the driving force on that. One was essentially the slow turn on red, and the other was redoing the yellow light timing. The net effect of that is to reduce the number of tickets by about half. And so my hope is that we are approaching a place where we actually have the gains in discouraging red light running, which is really candidly a safety issue, without dinging people who, you know, frankly should not be, you know, we should not ding. The mechanics of returning money, it was to figure out, you know, how practical is that? It's fair, whether it's doable or not, I'm not sure.
Thank you. Ms. Russ?
I'm not a proponent of red light cameras. I'm not a proponent of anything that is going to take money away from hard-working people. And I don't know whether there's any accountability on how that money is spent, but I will work to make sure that if there's any way to avoid the cameras and to make sure that people in this economy has as much money in their pocket as possible. I don't believe that we should have never, you know, went the route of the red light cameras. I don't see where it's feasible except for clogging up our courts and causing citizens to pay money that, you know, it's kind of hard in this economy. I think $145 is a lot of money to pay for a ticket. And I would work very hard and advocate that we reduce those cameras or either basically get rid of those cameras.
Thank you. Mr. Mallory?
Okay, number one, yes, I think the people who were wrongly fined for running a camera that's malfunctioning, I definitely think they should be returned their money. Because when they do run it and we catch them when everything's working fine, then the city expects them to pay that fine also. So if it's a wrong ticket, then they should not have to pay that ticket. And that also, I would like to know, what is the percentages of, what has it caused? Has it helped the cause, or has it worsened it? Because to me, it feels a little unsafe. You catch drivers watching that click down thing on the side for the pedestrians to walk across, and they're pretty much focused on that instead of the flow of traffic, and it can cause back-end accidents. I would like to know, has that stopped anybody from being rear-ended, or has it caused it more accidents? If it has, then therefore it needs to be taken away, because is it really about the money, or is it about the safety? And me working with the city on their safety committee, safety is big for me, so I think safety's first.
Thank you. Now this question is, we're going to start first with Mr. Nurse. Oh, I'm sorry, you haven't done it yet. I'm just moving too fast for now.
The answer to the question would be no. It was my new business idea that brought about red light cameras. I think they are safety driven, and the two things in my 1-minute response that I would give you to support that is, when you look at the number of repeat offenders, it's very small. People get one ticket and they learn. Also, when you look at the severity of the car crashes, it's the T-bone car crashes that hurt and kill people. And the red light cameras are excellent at preventing that. I believe red light cameras are a safety scenario. Like Karl said, this is an evolving idea, and the statute has changed. And I also would express a lot of trust in our traffic department and their studies. And I believe some of the criticism of the traffic department is not well founded. Thank you.
Yes, you may respond. You may respond.
I would like to know the statistics. I'm just curious to know the statistics of how many accidents have been avoided as for, with the red light camera, and how many accidents has been caused by people stopping, trying to get the red light, or stopping in the light. Could either one of the council members give me some statistics on that?
Can't give the answer to that in a 1-minute time period, but I would direct you towards Joe Kubicki, our Director of Transportation, and the voluminous studies that exist on the topic.
Thank you. This question is we're going to start with Mr. Nurse. St. Petersburg has resolved to create a sustainability council based on economy, environment, equality, and efficiency. Describe your support and what this means for the city.
Well, that was my new business item, so I obviously think it's a good idea. One of the most fun work that I've done in the last 5 years has been trying to find ways where what is good for the environment is also good for our wallet. And we seem to have an endless number of those opportunities. The biggest one right now, we're redoing our sewer treatment plant. It's going to save us about $60 million over 20 years, and have a whole, reduce air pollution, reduce water pollution. The same thing is going to go on with LED traffic lights, which should be able to save us $1.5 million or so a year. I think you're going to see those begin happening in the coming year. Sustainability Council, the powerful part about that is it's a way to get folks together to begin brainstorming to see how can we save money, do good things for the environment, help grow clean jobs. It's one of those victories all the way around.
Thank you. Mr. Russ?
From a perspective of sustainability, and from a perspective of District 6, to me, my perspective of sustainability, which I think is a wonderful, wonderful idea, is that if we can help people to cut their electric bills, if we can find ways to make our homes more energy efficient, because in my district there is a lot of blight, slum, there is a lot of high electricity bills because of the houses are not insulated properly. And that would be my idea of creating or devising ways maybe of energy that will save save people's money, and our homes would be more efficient, and we can have a sense of sustainability through electric cost, reduction in electric fuel and electric costs, and maybe innovative ways, maybe paneling, or areas. I think our city should move in areas that would conserve a lot of energy and make our homes more efficient.
Thank you. Mr. Mallory?
Okay, number one, I think in our city we need to make recycling mandatory. You have to recycle to keep our communities and our city clean. The bodies of water around us, they need to be clean also, and that can start with recycling. We have a big waterfront, and it's visited frequently by a lot of people, and a lot of that trash ends up in the water, whether it be plastic or paper. We have to, number one, recycling needs to just step it up a little bit in our city of St. Pete, I think. And number two, I think we should take another look at this light rail system. Our public transportation, it's seen record numbers with riders that ride these city buses. It's a good thing that we are getting our buses more up to speed with the Stay Green and the energy as far as the cutting down the pollution. And I think that light rail system will only help our percentages. It will boost it up to 70%. And anything over 50 or 60, 70%, when you get into those numbers, that's definitely something you should take a look at.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you. Yes, I had the privilege of supporting Karl's idea and voting for the Sustainability Council. And from the point of view, when we look at sustainability, I think transportation is the key to that in our region. And at this point in time, as a city representative on the Pinellas Planning Council, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the ACP, the Advisory Committee on Transportation, I'm in a position to really hopefully help on the transportation and get that 2014 referendum in a position where it can be supported by everyone throughout the county. But we need to continue to look at sustainability on all fronts. And actually our city is doing a very good job at that. When you look at what we're doing with the new sewage treatment and how that's going to actually be generating the fuel for our garbage trucks and a variety of things. So, well, thank you.
I totally support Karl's initiative, but I'm going to be taking it a step further. Water conservation and sea level rise and climate change, or if you go to my website, vote.LorraineMargeson.com, you'll see a lot of discussion of that. I'm putting a lot of documentation and issue-based white papers regarding that issue, because sustainability is absolutely important, but water is Florida's gold, and we are not doing enough about water conservation, nor are we doing enough to plan for future infrastructure for sea level rise and climate change. So although I will absolutely, in fact, I saw Karl last night and I said, let me get in on the Sustainability Council thing. We have to go a lot farther than, saving a couple of bucks and doing a couple of little things. We need to really step up a future visionary planning scenario for what is to come in our state, which is going to be probably water wars again. We are in a good state, by the way, with reclaimed water in St. Pete, but water conservation on every other front, we have to do a way better job. Sea level rise, climate change, I'm done.
All right. This question is directed first to Ms. Russ. Please describe your level of support for a transit referendum, whether or not Hillsborough moves forward.
I completely support a transit referendum because I think for my district and the people that live in my district, I've had to take the bus, numerous times, and traveling across the county from St. Petersburg to Clearwater is a two-hour commute, and I think we should support a transit system which would move our city forward, you know, in this modern era. And I'm totally in support of sitting down and talking to the transportation, the transit authorities, and making sure that we have a system that can alleviate some of our transportation problems, deal with the overcrowded streets that we have right now. And I think we're moving and we're growing as a city. And I think it's something that should have been, you know, considered a long time ago, but I don't think it's too late. I think we can still become a city that is modern in our transportation, and we can travel faster across the county.
Mr. Mallory.
Okay, yes, I think we should revisit, again, I think I touched on it in my last answer, the light rail system. It can help us in a lot of ways in our city. It can get a lot of people from Hillsborough to here a lot quicker, a lot safer, and it'll be a lot healthier for our population as far as pollution is concerned. And that can also help in a lot of ways. It can help the Rays. It can get more attendance in the Rays Stadium if we had better transportation to get people in and out of St. Petersburg. With all our one-ways downtown, it's tough for a lot of people when they come here to visit to get out of here, and a lot of people don't like it, seeing that it's late hours and it takes a while to get home coming from Hillsborough. And again, we have record numbers on our transportation now with our city buses. I mean, if we can get that light rail system back into place some kind of way, we can up the ante on the buses, who will continue to make money because we can allow for more transportation. Instead of someone waiting 45 minutes to an hour for the next bus to come, we can move away, we can ease some more buses in those routes and get people to their destinations.
Thank you. Kennedy?
I am a very big supporter of Greenlight Pinellas, and hence, if you want to ask me about it later on. That relates to the light rail that goes from Clearwater to St. Pete, but more importantly in that is the bus rapid transit that will actually convert our hub and spoke system where buses go into a grid system and be more efficient. The reason that that's vital is because this is a county-wide referendum, and we need to make sure we don't make the mistakes that were made in Hillsborough, where it was passed in Tampa as a city of a whole, but not passed in the county section. So part of what the advisory committee is doing is making sure that those people who are not along the rail line will still be able to enjoy mass transit through the bus rapid transit system.
Yes, I'm totally in support of looking at this issue, but I think it's very much more regional as opposed to even county-wide. I'm not totally happy with all of the projected plans right now and some of the scenarios that we're looking at, but I am in support of it. I think we need to make it better, and I think it will only work well if it's much more of a regional as opposed to just Pinellas County initiative, working together, coordinating together to make it really work in a regional manner.
Thank you. Mr. Nurse?
I support the transit referendum. I was the citizen rep on the PSTA before I was on city council. And I should mention that the first time I proposed ending the permits to put a bike on a bus, I did not get a second. The second time I did that, it did pass by one vote, and since then that has been the fastest growing niche in the transit system. The first time I proposed that we buy hybrid buses, I was unsuccessful. We now only buy hybrid buses because we've discovered that they get 50% better gas mileage and generate about 50% of the air pollution. And so improving the transit is a big deal, and I should mention it's a big deal for economic reasons. Two reasons. One, around the hubs, or around the transit stops, you'll get tremendous economic development. But more importantly, there'll be thousands and thousands of families who are able to have one fewer car, which is like getting an $8,000 raise. And I know that because my children who moved to other cities are all one-car families as a result.
Thank you. This question is going to be directed first to Mr. Mallory. This can be answered either yes or no, or with a short explanation. Are you in favor of universal curbside recycling?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy?
Provided the economic ramifications and costs of it are understood, yes.
Yes, but not the way the current plan is proposed now. I intend to think of a better one. That'll work.
Yes.
Ms. Russ?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, this question will be directed first to Mr. Kennedy. The redistricting of council seats caused problems this year. Do you agree this is something that must be fixed? And if so, what would you suggest to fix it?
I think the timing of it needs to be changed to be fixed. We took a step in removing the redistricting directly from city council. Prior to this, the city council people themselves did the redistricting. This is the first time we appointed a committee of citizens to do the redistricting, and that recommendation came back to council. But I definitely think the charter review needs to look at the timing of when that districting happens and when the elections are.
Ms. Margeson?
Yes, having been almost a victim of the redistricting issue, yeah, we got to do something about this. It's absolutely a timing issue. Thanks.
Mr. Nurse?
It was my proposal to shift from council drawing their own lines to a citizens group doing it. Obviously, the timing thing has to be fixed. But I think equally important, and this was really driven by staff, frankly, there were supposed to be 4 criteria for what lines look like: compact, neighborhood borders, natural borders, and precincts. Unfortunately, the supervisor elections merged 55 precincts last year to save money, and our staff falsely, in my opinion, told the committee they couldn't divide precincts. And the reason we no longer have compact districts that represent, logical borders is because they were told they could not divide precincts. And so some of the precincts had 6,000 people in them. And so you just really couldn't do logical borders. And so we need to clarify that definition before we do this the next time.
Thank you. Ms. Russ?
First of all, participating in the state legislature race, I'm not a proponent of gerrymandering. I think, I'm not a proponent of set-aside districts. But right now, District 6 has changed in ways which can be good, and also in ways, that we probably need to look at. A lot of people right now, I think we could do more in educating people on the district has changed and where we're living right now. I'm not a proponent of a specific race over a district. I think anyone who is capable of running a district, they should be qualified to run that. But my main thing is, like in District 6, the community redevelopment area. I'm very concerned about that because within that area, and then we have on the outskirts, we have very prosperous areas. So my thing with redistricting would be is that whoever is elected, regardless of what minority or whatever, that we work to make sure that that area is included and valuable as part of the whole district.
Mr. Mallory?
I think it was a good idea to let the citizens choose their district. I don't understand how it could hurt or where it can help, because I haven't actually, I'm from the outside looking in, just like a lot of you people out here are. So I don't really know the whole ins and out on that topic. So right now I kind of want to stay away from that until I know a little bit more about it. I know my district, District 6, I do know something about it, my district, and where it used to be and where it is now. To me, the overall thing is I just hope it doesn't affect the schools, because when you start letting people dictate, what district they want to be in, that also involves our school systems, and it can hurt it. It can make some areas a lot worse than they used to be, or it can make some areas that were good a lot worse than they used to be also. So it can be a win-win in some cases, and in some cases it's a lose-lose. So I would like to know more information about it before I really get into any details.
Thank you. This question is going to begin with Ms. Margeson. What would you do to increase the number of community gardens in the city?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I have a large interest in it, and I do not have the layout or the planning. I haven't requested those public records yet, but I'm going to now after that question. It's a really important initiative, and one thing I've heard about certain community gardens being planned, which I know are in like 100-year flood zone areas. So that is actually on my plate to look at where it's reasonable and where it's going to be, usable truly in a safe manner and productive manner. But I'm all in. I don't have the answers, but it's on my plate, and I'll take a look.
Thank you. The other way, Mr. Nurse.
The ordinance that allowed community gardens was one of my new business items. About 4 years ago, we started off with a community garden first in Bartlett Park. There are about 20 of them now, if you include all the gardens that are at schools and churches. Right now, what we're working on is what's called an urban agriculture ordinance, which would allow some small-scale urban farms. Selfishly, the one I'm most interested in would be behind the Enoch Davis Center in the Johnson Branch Library, and sort of wrapping around what will be the new charter school. But we are looking at trying to expand community gardens. There are cities that actually allow some of those in parks, and allow trees in parks. So we're working on a revision of the ordinance right now to allow more community gardens across our city, which I think is a good thing.
Thank you, Ms. Russ.
I think the idea of a community garden could be very effective for not only District 6, but for other districts also. I think if we, to me, it would be a new, innovative way of educating children to become more productive, to learn more about, especially urban children, to learn more about gardening, growing their own food. And I think it's a great idea, and I would like to really look into that and expand that as much as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Mallory.
I think there should be a garden in every community. I'm trying it at home personally, and I'm not that good at it. So to get other opinion from my neighbors in my community will be very well. I'm trying to grow a variety of things, and the only thing I'm successful with is tomatoes. I have too many tomatoes. Those are easy, so I try to stick with them so my kids can really think that I can grow something. So honestly, I just think it'd be great. I mean, it's nice with the community. It's good to bring people together and show people different things, different vegetables, different fruits, what have you. I have people in my community from all over. I get out and talk to them, so I would like to learn how to grow something from Germany or something from, any other country or what have you, and teach them the same thing. But, fortunately, all I can show them is tomatoes. So I think community gardens are good as far as bringing communities together.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you. I've had the privilege of supporting the community garden ordinance, and I support the urban farming. Give you an example, we're building a new 9-acre park up where Rio Vista School used to be on 83rd Avenue, right before the San Martin Bridge. And we looked at trying to get an urban garden into that park, and our biggest concern and an economic problem was getting clean water as opposed to the reclaimed water to that section. So we will have an urban flower garden in that park that's going to be able to have citizen involvement and create the community portion that comes from the urban garden. Even if it's not creating something that's edible, it'll still be creating something that's beautiful and will assist in bringing the community together.
Thank you. All right. This question will begin with Mr. Margeson, didn't we do you?
I started off with the garden thing.
You did.
So
We go to Mr. Nurse. Okay. All right. Do you support creating an ordinance for a non-criminal civil violation that the St. Pete Police Department can use instead of a minor, in the case of minor marijuana possession?
Yes, I do. And I frankly view this as a crime-fighting thing, frankly. We waste an enormous amount of energy prosecuting people for possession of small amounts of marijuana. And frankly, I would be much prefer to redirect that to the fairly widespread property crime that we've got in lots of neighborhoods in town, and not trip up people, frankly, mostly teenagers who ruin their lives.
Thank you. Ms. Russ?
Yeah, of course, I would support any avenue that we can use to or devise to keep our children from starting out with a bad record. I think that when we become a city or a country that sends more children to prison or juvenile than we graduate from high school, I think it's time that we use every measure that we can in order to avoid a record or a criminalization of our youth. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think it will go a long ways to give kids an opportunity, because we've all been children, we've all made mistakes, and I think it would be a good impact on our juvenile justice system. And so I think it would be I would definitely look into into ways to stop the criminalization of our youth, and to make sure that most of our children are on a pathway to success.
Mr. Mallory?
Well, marijuana is not legal, and I don't like to see young youth or teenagers high off of any kind of drug. So I'm definitely not for them being punished to such a high crime for small amounts of marijuana. And to me, it's kind of an excuse when you hear the statistics that they're building prisons based on our third graders. And most of those third graders that end up, the system is predominantly African Americans. That percentage is very high. So it hurts them at a young age, and it hurts them for a long time. A lot of you might not know this. I did an interview with the Tampa Bay Times today, and I put it all in the paper, so the article will be out the 28th. I was arrested before for possession of marijuana. It was 15 years ago. I did my 60 days in county time, and I did that, and I didn't get a life sentence then, so it should not affect me for the rest of my life. Since then, I have 4 beautiful daughters, and I'm trying to raise them in our community the right way. So I'm not going to hide anything from anybody. I'm just being upfront about it. This is 15 years later, and I'm a better man now.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you. I do support the theory. It obviously will take a lot of study from the point of view of enforcement and how the police department would adapt to that theory. I'm concerned about the effect that an early record has on our youth, but I'm also concerned about making sure that there's still ramifications for inappropriate or illegal conduct, but not to make something more where the punishment fits the crime.
Thank you. Ms. Margeson?
With the state that is looking right now at legalizing medical marijuana, it's time to do away with low-level marijuana crimes.
All right, this next question, we'll start with Ms. Russ. Would you be willing to bring back the neighborhood partnership grants to help all the neighborhoods? And if not, why not?
Yes, I would. I would definitely work hard to bring back the neighborhood partnership grants. I think that we can be a very effective city if our neighborhoods work together. I'm not a proponent of division, no type of division, even anything that divides our city. I think as far as District 6, I think we as a city can come together, come up with very good creative ways to help schools like Melrose Elementary. I think, there shouldn't be any gatekeepers to our community. I think we can come together, regardless of backgrounds, racial, and just come up with good ways that we can move our city forward and make it a city where everyone has that opportunity. And I think we can begin with that with our youth, with our next generation. And I think we can focus more on education, and make sure that our children, all of our city has, good neighborhoods and good avenues. And I think we can do that by just, dropping the boundaries and just communicating together, with each other.
Mr. Mallory?
Okay, yes, I think that program is great, simply because in the South Side, we need it. We need it bad. We need to clean up the whole South Side entirely. You can't expect economic development in an area that's not safe for developers to come put their money into a community and they're being broken into or vandalized week in and week out. So you definitely, on the South Side, that program will be a great program to clean up those communities over there and to build up our South Side. I mean, there are a lot of development plans coming up for the South Side. I've been to the meetings, and before we can get anybody, I think, this is my opinion as a citizen, before anybody will really come and put some money into building up our South Side of St. Pete, we need to clean it up first. And that's going to come from the citizens within the community and around each other, so everybody needs to come together, and it's got to be done together before we can make our city a better city.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, I support the neighborhood grants, and I'd like to see it actually funded in a way with partnership with private industry and local businesses. I think that the synergy between the neighborhoods and the local businesses is something to work on. I also think that it's appropriate to create a little competition between the neighborhoods. And from what I hear, when that happens, King David can really, take charge and lead different neighborhood cleanups and things along those lines. But I think what it also has done is, I know that a variety of neighborhood associations have worked together on how do you do a cleanup, how do you get people out, and sharing resources. So I think the more funding and the more you put into that, I think you have a real high rate of return. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Margeson?
Yes, when I started the 34th Street corridor, Crime Watch, and then was at the inception of the 34th Street Neighborhood Association or Corridor Association. Neighborhood partnership grants were very much a part of that scenario, as was community policing. This city has backtracked considerably in terms of support to the neighborhoods, money for the neighborhoods, and I totally disagree in terms of competition between the neighborhoods. The way that we cleaned up the 34th Street corridor, I don't live there anymore, by the way, but when I lived there, we did, was we had, 3 to 4 neighborhoods cooperating together. Competition is absolutely a bad idea. Bringing every neighborhood contingent to every neighborhood, contingent to every neighborhood together, working together, transferring information, sharing whatever they may be able to share is how we will maybe, possibly improve many blighted areas of this city. We need those grants, we need neighborhood partnership back, we need community policing back.
The loss of the neighborhood grants is really a symbol of a broader cutback that's happened over the last 6 years in commitment to neighborhoods. The neighborhood partnership office is about half the size it used to be. We don't have a deputy mayor for neighborhoods who was able to essentially coordinate all the various departments. Code enforcement's been cut back by a quarter. Community policing has been gutted. Public service reps have been cut by a quarter. And so the loss during this last half dozen years, most of it driven by budget cuts, has been pretty severe, and the loss of momentum in neighborhoods, I think, shows that. So we have, my hope is that one of the things that will come out of this election campaign is a renewed commitment to engaging in neighborhoods and turning them around, and it requires all these efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. In spite of the fact that you've given us a wealth of questions, we only have time for one more question. So if your question doesn't get answered, please speak to the candidates afterwards. The last question we will start with Mr. Mallory is, what is your position on the lens? In a very short period of time.
Okay, well, the citizens will vote on it soon, And I think that's all I want to say about it. I mean, I think the citizens should have the right to choose what happens to the pier and the lens. It's just with me personally, the inverted pyramid is proven in the city of St. Pete. It's been there, it's still there, it's been tested, and they don't expect it to go anywhere no time soon with tropical weather I'm talking about. It's proven itself with the storms that has come through St. Pete, and I would just hate to see a $50 million project that's not proven in that vicinity, sitting out in that body of water to be a taxpayer's waste of money. So I'm for what we have now. Just remodel it, fix it up a little bit, make it better, and let's get it back open and get those businesses that were ran out of there 3-4 weeks ago, and let's get them back to work.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. I support the process that was used to develop the lens. And basically, there was 80-some citizen meetings. There was an international competition of architects to come up with unique and iconic ideas. I don't claim to be the most artistic person, but we had people from that were trained in that were on the panel, and this was the selection. I believe that some of the criticism has been harsh just because people don't like the design. I think that there's a real concern if we don't go forward with the lens, what will happen there? And I think stagnation is potentially a bad thing for our city. And to address the pier is, the approach was built in the 20s. Those guys did a really good job, but it was the 20s. And when you put it to a vote, if 70% of the people voted that the pier was structurally sound, would it become so? So I hope the lens does go forward.
As the office manager for the Concerned Citizens Stop the Lens office, vote yes to stop the lens.
Mr. Nurse.
I voted a year ago to allow the citizens to vote on this. We were never able to get a majority at the city council for that. I voted to either reduce or cut off funding over the last several months. I don't think the lens works. And let me talk for a moment about where I think we move forward. I think where the process went wrong was when we went out for bid to the architects, we essentially dropped the task force. And whereas the task force had spelled out all the functions we wanted this to do, we just said make it iconic. And what you had to choose between when all was said and done was a spaceship, one of those sort of loop-de-loops, and the lens, and it was because we asked them for dramatic, frankly non-functional designs. I think if we come back, do the same thing you would do when you went to an architect for a house. You know, so many bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. When you do that kind of thing, you get a functional building, and that's the way I think we're going to have to restart this.
Thank you, Ms. Russ.
Oh, sorry.
As far as the lens is concerned, this has been a very controversial issue as far as the mirror race. I think it has caused some division, and I think there was a big contractor, dispute, which I think is kind of unfortunate. I think the lens is important, and I think what we have a lot of pressing issues in our city, but of course it is a good business. It's a part of our city, and I think in the end we have to come together and we have to make a decision and decide who's going to do what. But I think it was really involved in this contract dispute. And I think we have to come up with ways to do something, with the pier, aside from focusing so much on who's going to be, the award of the contract.
Thank you. Now we're going to have closing remarks. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for their closing remarks, and we will start with Mr. Kennedy.
Well, Once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and Kona and everyone that was here. And would request your support for City Council. I think basically my knowledge, experience, and temperament are things that will help lead this city forward. From the point of view when I first got on City Council, I've been on City Council almost 6 years. I went deep into the budget. I've been the chair of the Budget, Finance, and Taxation Committee for 4 of these 6 years, chair of the Investment Oversight Committee, and I also served as chair of City Council for 1 year. Also, when the issue of EMS with the county came up, our safety is a vital scenario, and when the county was saying that we had excess response time because our guys could get there in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and it would be cheaper if they could get there in 7 minutes, we led that committee from the City Council to protect our EMS. Recently, I've evolved into kind of the land use and transportation guy. I've been on the PPC for quite some time, the Pinellas Planning Council. That is basically what's in charge of land use, zoning, and things like that. I have recently been appointed about a year ago to the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. One's federal, one's one city. We're combining them, and basically we're leading the transportation in the 2014 referendum. I've proven I know how to get things accomplished, building a park with the school board with a 50-year lease, playgrounds, canals, and thank you. I would appreciate your support.
Ms.
Hi.
Margeson.
Hi, I know so many of you out there because I've been an advocate and a volunteer for 20 years in this city. I've led a lot of battles because when I see poor government, I usually step up to the plate to lead the charge to change poor government. Oddly enough, I'm in the position that I might be on the other side of the dais this time. And I'm kind of liking the idea because I'm really kind of getting tired of fighting from the other side, waiting for hours for 3 minutes to speak. But here's one thing that I can guarantee you. If I am sitting on council when the meeting ends, I'm not going to duck out the side door and back of the dais. I'm going to walk out through the front door and you can talk to me. I will definitely make it a point to go out to neighborhood meetings all over the city because as actually the office manager for the Stop the Lens effort, I've been on the street for 8 months basically campaigning and listening to thousands of you, and it has been an absolutely eye-opening and wonderful experience. And if I have the grace to sit on council, I will make sure that I keep my ear to the ground to this entire city because my job is to represent you. I have one vote. I do not have the responsibility to dictate to you. I have the responsibility to coalesce, congeal, synthesize, and form your opinions in a majority fashion with advice from experts, not just city staff experts, but other experts as well, to make sure that if I make a vote, the vote is supported by the city with responsible information. Thank you. Vote LorraineMargeson.com.
Mr. Nurse.
Hi. Most of you know, my name is Karl Nurse. I came to City Council with ideas, and I will just, candidly, I will keep them coming. I'm happy to say that St. Pete Times once called me the hardest working man in local government, and with all respect to James Brown, I appreciate that. but I think I've done a good bit, but there's obviously a lot to do in terms of turning around our neighborhoods and improving our city. But let me give you some examples I haven't mentioned. I passed the convenience store safety ordinance after we had a rash of convenience store robberies, and as a result, the convenience store robberies dropped in half. The first time we increased the number of police officers in 15 years, I led that effort. We got money from the federal government called COPS grants. I led the effort to force the sale of Citrus Grove, our most dangerous housing complex in town. And as a result, there's been $1 million of renovation in there and a lot of public safety work, and we're not done, frankly. And in housing issues, the first day I was on City Council, I proposed that we begin funding foreclosure prevention work, which we did. I passed the Foreclosure Prevention or Foreclosure Registry Act over the objections of heavy lobbying. I got rebates for rehabs, and most importantly, we are about 2/3 of the way through getting a CRA or community redevelopment plan for Midtown and Childs Park, which I think is a kind of legacy thing that will have a 20-year impact. Thank you. I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Ms. Russ?
Okay, I have lived in District 6 for a while. I raised my children in District 6. And I'm running because if you look at the CRA report, the Community Redevelopment Area, we are going to invest $170 million over the next, 7 years in that area. I want to ensure that that money is spent properly, that the blight, the slum, and the report, the educational statistics, that something changes. You know, I just cannot believe that we're still investing money after the 1996 riots. We're right back where we started before. In fact, we are in worse condition in District 6 within that area. And I think it's time that we are accountable for the money that we spend. I think it's time that there's change. I think the time that Citrus Grove and those areas, we need to really put a concerted effort into that. We need to make sure that those children are educated, and we need to break this cycle of poverty in District 6, because what happens in District 6, whether we realize it or not, affects our whole city. And that is something that we have to come together as a city and say, what can we do to finally stop this? Why do we continue to pour money and never get results? You know, we're experiencing the same thing: poverty, blight, slumlords. And I think we just need to focus on social issues. You know, the politics is fine, but I'm a grassroots person. I live there. I raise my children there. I'm a single mother. I've experienced everything that people in that district have experienced. And you really can't talk about something that you don't know about. So let's just get down to basics and just think about life and a future and moving our city forward apart from the division. That area is divided from the rest of the city. And it's time we did something about it. And I will call for accountability. You can see my passion in this, that $170 million will go to make a difference once and for all.
Mr. Mallory.
Yes, I'm running for District 6 for one reason, and one reason only. I have nothing bad to say about Mr. Karl Nurse. You know, I've spoken with a lot of people that I actually look up to, and they've told me some good things about this gentleman. But for me and what I see in my community, the father of 4 girls, it's scary out there. These neighborhoods, these communities. I understand the whole CRA and this redevelopment program, but we got to clean up our communities. The South Side is in a disarray. It's poverty. The biggest employer on the South Side of St. Pete is the drug enforcement, or the drug game, the drug dealers. And that's an issue. We got to figure out a way. I understand the lens is on the map, the raise, and all the redevelopment that's going on downtown, which is good. But for us to get reliable developers to come here and to stay here to better our city, we have to clean up our community, our own backyards. And it is budget free because we can do it together as the people. It wouldn't cost us much money to get our communities under control. We need a better relationship with our police departments in the south of St. Petersburg. And like Ms. Russ said, Southside is a big factor in St. Pete, and it's being pushed to the backside. But if I'm elected for District 6, I will give you my word that I will listen to the issues on the south side of St. Pete, because I have a lot of those same issues too, and I will work my hardest to get some kind of agreement done where we can fix it up down there and make our city better as a whole. Thank you. Trevor Mallory.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank all of you candidates for your willingness to stand for public office. Thank you very much. For your willingness to come out and learn about candidates so you can be better informed. And I'd like to thank the staff of the League of Women Voters and our sponsoring organizations, the Patch and Kona. Thank you very much.